Greetings, programs, and welcome back to the Awesome Friday podcast. We are back after a short hiatus to talk to you about some movies. I'm your host. My name is Matthew, and this week we're talking about The Fall Guy, starring Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, and also Challengers with Zendaya and Josh O'Connor and Mike Faist. And with me is Simon, as is de rigueur for our show.
Hola!
About some movies. How are you today, Simon?
I'm good. I'm fine, thank you. I'm good. It's been a nice weekend. The end of a difficult couple of weeks, but it's been a nice weekend, so that's good. I almost got to watch Die Hard with my son last night, I cancelled all my plans because my son and my wife went to Metrotown to do things, and I was watching hockey with a friend of mine, and I phoned my wife, and she asked him, what would you like to do tonight? Because my daughter was at a sleepover, so we can tend to watch something a bit more grown up, like a Bond movie. And he said he wants jacket potato. Sorry, what do you say here? Baked potato with tuna mayo, and he wants to watch Die Hard. I'm like, why do he wants to watch Die Hard? She's like, yeah, he wants to watch Die Hard. Apparently his friends have told him how good Die Hard is. I'm like, okay, well, he started to watch a bit more violent stuff. It's very violent, but if he wants to watch Die Hard, I cancelled all of my plans. I came home, I got dinner ready. I got out my Blu-ray. He's playing Fortnite downstairs. I undid my brand new Blu-ray of Die Hard. Got it all set up. I'm gonna watch Die Hard with my son. He came upstairs and he's like, "What?" He looked at the Blu-ray screen. He's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Well, you want to watch Die Hard?" And he looks at my wife and he looks at me. He's like, "I don't want to watch Die Hard." And my wife's like, "You said you wanted to watch Die Hard," and he said, I want to watch Die Hard, the TV show with Kevin Hart where he learns how to be an action hero. That's what he wanted. He wanted to watch Die Hard because all of his friends told him that Die Hard. But because we're English and he's got Canadian, that rounded TD sound, my wife thought he wanted to watch Die Hard. So we ended up watching Uncharted instead because by that point we're eating. And let me tell you, that's a fucking awful movie. Just an ugly, obnoxious movie. ChatGPT Indiana Jones. Just awful film. And so maybe in the future, I'm going to download Die Hard for him. I'm going to pay for the subscription and watch it legally. And then maybe in a few years, we'll actually get around to Die Hard. But I got very excited for a moment.
You know, I have two takeaways from this. One is that I should really own Die Hard on Blu-ray, and I just found out there was an edition on Blu-ray that came out, and the case is a model of the Nakatomi Plaza.
Yes. Oh no, that's expensive now. You can't afford it.
No, I don't think anybody can. It's not available anymore. So it's going to be like eBay or whatever. And the other thing I would like to just circle back to is you were watching hockey? Who are you watching hockey with, and why were you watching? You are not a hockey person, sir. That is
I wasn't at all.
New information.
So the end of season 1 of Shoresy was the first time I've ever watched anything hockey related, and I've never got hockey before. I've been the person in the pub going, they're fighting, oh, this is terrible, won't someone stop it? And everyone's looking at me like, what are you fucking talking about? I've never seen the appeal of ice hockey, as we call it. You can just call it hockey.
That's because that's what it's called.
Yes. End of season 1 of Shoresy was the first time I was like, fuck, I get it. I get the camaraderie, I get the speed of it. And then I as you say eloquently put it, I broke my ankles jumping on the Canucks bandwagon recently to watch them lose. Because I was watching those games, and as much as I really hate the fighting, and I wish, like on the world stage, I wish that it was removed from North American hockey because it's ridiculous. And I've got so much to say about it. I'm not going to say anything, but I really understood the game, and I like the variances in speed, or I like, in a similar way to I like watching basketball and I like watching volleyball. Like there's a lot of tempo switches and a lot of strategy, and I get it, and it's high pace, high volume. And so I really enjoyed the playoffs, even though Canucks lost. And then I started watching like non-Canucks games and being into those as well. And yesterday was the second round, the Western round of Edmonton versus another team, and I watched a bit of that as well. But
They're
they
playing
didn't want to
Dallas,
watch
aren't they?
it. Dallas, thank you. And then the Eastern is New York, Florida. So I'm kind of understand it more now, and I'm kind of seeing the appeal more now.
Hmm.
Hate the fighting. Hate that it's accepted. Hate how many Canadian bros tell me it's part of the game. Fuck you. Like, play any other sport in the world and it's not allowed. You get so severely punished for that. And also, this is it's not the national team, but the national game, but it may as well be, because there's not kids spending thousands of dollars to get into playing lacrosse, especially this side of the
No,
country.
no. We have two national sports. Hockey is one of
Yes,
them.
there's and this is a game where you want young people to come up, and you're setting such a toxic example, like proclaiming fighting to be part of the game. And I know it's lesser now than I think it used to, but it drives me crazy. But this is a different conversation. Um, but I'm starting to really enjoy watching the game. I understand the strategies. I'm intrigued. Coming from a football background, I'm intrigued at this this idea of players coming on and off for like minutes at a time. So the team is
Mm-hmm.
constantly in flux and constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm intrigued by that, and I get it. I'm starting to get it. I'm really enjoying it.
I mean, it should be fairly familiar because the basic structure of hockey is just five-a-side soccer, but with sticks.
Right? Yeah. Oh, nice. Yes. Yeah. And the athleticism. Um, the more I go ice skating, I don't know what you're like at ice skating, but the more I go, the more I appreciate the athleticism of these people who can coordinate skating and controlling a puck and shooting and doing all the cool little footwork as well. I could never
Ice
do anything
skating
like
is one of the ways in which I'm a bad Canadian because I am quite bad at it. In that, if you have been able to go skating in the last decade and stay upright,
that.
then then that is the bar you need to clear to be better than me.
Okay.
um,
I can do that.
so yeah, it's just lack of practice. I used to skate when I was a kid, but I just
Hmm.
haven't done it in my adulthood. So
Hmm.
that's what happens when you live in the tropics of Canada.
Yes.
But yeah,
No,
I'm sort of out of step with most Vancouver fans because Edmonton defeated Vancouver in the second round. They're currently playing in the third round, conference finals.
oh, okay.
Um, and lots of people are like, I will never root for Edmonton, but my opinion is that if Edmonton beat us, they better win the whole fucking thing. Like I want to lose to the winner is my opinion.
Right. And
And also
the
that like
Canadian team as well.
they're the only Canadian team still in it, and I'd much rather have a Canadian team win than an American one. So
It's nice that I am not emotionally attached to any one team. I think I can enjoy it more because I'm not devastated if the Canucks lose. Like I've I've been a sport fan where if your team loses, it wrecks the sport for you, and so it's nice I can just watch anything.
I I'm sort of the same, but it's because they disappointed me so much in the '90s and early 2000s that like I'm not like hooked on to the Canucks in the same way that lots of people I know are. So yeah.
I'm gutted that the WNBA team that's come to Canada is all the way over in Toronto. I wish Vancouver got a bit more basketball love because I really like watching basketball, and I've been watching. I've got a cable channel that shows a lot of female sports, and they're fun. Like female basketball, as you know, had a huge last season and got very
Mm-hmm.
popular with good reason. Like really good to watch. And volleyball, I love watching volleyball as well. So I would love Vancouver to. They say they're going to play in Vancouver, but I would love to have like that. I understand there used to be. I haven't seen that documentary yet, but I'd love there to be where there
We
was
had an
a
NBA
team here.
team in the
Yeah,
'90s. I went to a number of games. It was glorious.
yeah. Really wish that was here.
We just really failed the team. I would
They
say.
moved, didn't they? Didn't the team just wholesale move like to America, which is a crazy concept for me as well.
It happens in sports all the time here. in North America. But yes, the team was purchased by new ownership, and they are now the Memphis Grizzlies. Last time I checked, but I'm not up on basketball, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they've since moved again. Uh, but basketball teams move a lot too, like as compared to other sports. Like
Mm-hmm.
they move. Yeah, Memphis Grizzlies still. I remember distinctly because they play in FedEx Arena, or they did play in FedEx Arena, and the ownership tried to also like rename them to the Memphis Express because they signed a sponsorship deal with FedEx, and the league
Oh
was like,
no.
"That's even the hyper capitalist sports league was like, that's a bridge too far."
Thank God for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a terrible name for a team.
I don't even think it's bad. I just think that like you don't a team can be sponsored, but you can't just like name the team after the sponsor. That's too much. You know, in the same
They
way
can
that
maybe.
like like the same way that like premiership teams in the UK like have corporate logos on their chest, but like you don't call them by their corporate logo. You know what I mean? Like it's already bad enough. You can't go there. Can't go further.
I dislike stadiums being renamed for buyers and sponsors as well. Like I miss GM Place.
I
It'll
miss
always be
GM
GM
Place.
Place.
I miss GM Place because the garage is such a better nickname than anything else that's
Yes.
ever come
Yeah.
up. And I hate it because like I still call what did they rename it to? I always forget. But the baseball stadium in Seattle, which was Safeco Field, is now T-Mobile Park, I think.
Oh no.
And that's mostly just that like I have a hard time remembering the rename.
Mm.
Yeah, T-Mobile Park. It's a whole thing. I haven't been to a baseball game in a minute. I should really go. We have great
Yeah,
baseball
that was
here.
fun. This was fun.
Yeah. Anyway, well, we should probably talk about
Well,
some movies.
yeah, I got them. What should we talk about?
Uh, yeah, we should talk about some movies. Let's start with The Fall Guy. And why don't you take us through the basic plot synopsis of The Fall Guy, starring Canada's Ryan Gosling, the United Kingdom's Emily Blunt, and America's
Oh,
David Leitch directing.
so proud of her. Um, Ryan Gosling plays a stuntman, a very cocksure and confident stuntman called Colt Sievers, who works on many film sets. And this whole movie is a love letter to stunt work. So it starts with a fantastic montage of different stunts with some very recognizable stunt performers if you're looking for them. And he's flirting very heavily with a camera operator played by Emily Blunt, and he goes to do this. Isn't a spoiler because it's literally in, I think it might even be the pre-credit roll. He has an accident that puts him out of the game for a little while, and then through hilarious set of circumstances, he is brought back onto a new set in Australia to be directed by Emily Blunt's character, who we learn through the course of the film. Well, they had a some sort of relationship that he basically went cold on and ghosted her, and so a big this movie, it has disparate story elements. Like one part is them reuniting and him trying to rekindle the flame in the most gloriously adorable way possible. Then you've got the thinly veiled Tom Cruise analog that he is the stuntman for, who does all his own stunts, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Gets involved in some shady shit and disappears from set. So he's fundamentally been hired to go find him. So you've really got two different stories, and I love this film. It never really successfully ties these two story elements together, like satisfactorily. But it's so much fun. I'm willing to let it go because basically you've got a fantastic first and third act full of stunt work. The third act finale is an absolute banger of well shot stunt work, and it's David Leitch, who is a stuntman turned director, has got all of his like stunt buddies involved, and it's almost like one of
I'm
these theatre school showcases at the end of the semester where they put on their best work. It's a showcase of great stunt work. The middle act is kind of the pacing grinds to an absolute halt as they try to resolve some of the story elements. But we had so much fun. And a couple of weeks ago, I talked about my frustration with Scott Snyder, not Scott Snyder, what's his name, Zack Snyder, not thinking about the audience experience when he makes a movie. And this film is the opposite of that. This film is only interested in the audience experience, and it loves the audience. And this movie loves other movies, and it wants to show you how great movies are. And I really respond to that really, really well. It's not perfect, but it's so much fun.
I liked it. I thought it was fine. For me, the second act slowdown was a bit too much. I also, very interestingly, there's a couple of really big stunts where I felt exactly no tension at all, which I felt was a bit of a failing for me. Like, I just didn't connect with. There's one where he's like in the back of a truck that's being dragged along the street, and I just didn't vibe with it at all. I will say that, but it's not like it's a bad film. It's just a little too long. It's so at the end of the day, I liked it fine, and I actually had a hard time with. There's a few of the choices I didn't really like. One is that I didn't actually, and I say this with all the love in the world because I do actually think they're both great performers. I actually didn't really buy Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt together for some reason. Even though they are both individually great in the film, I just didn't think they had the I didn't feel like they had the romantic chemistry that needed to sell that part of the story. If that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was very like not just PG-13, but like it, kind of like just playing with dolls. Like they're just not. They're together because the plot tells me they need to be together, not because it feels like they are together. And they are, but they're both great in it. And Gosling in particular, like, understands the assignments. I think he's been a standout performer for a long time, and this is another great performance by him. I'm a little bit shocked that this film is even out on streaming already. I thought it would do a lot better. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson is pretty great as the, like, empty-headed movie star, who at one point in the film does what I swear to God has to be. Like, this movie throws a lot of shade at guys like Tom Cruise, but there's one moment where he has to deliver a monologue in character, and I swear to God he's doing the best terrible Matthew McConaughey impression I've ever seen.
Space Cowboy.
And it's pretty wonderful. The first act of this movie, the pre-credits, actually, the whole thing leading up to the accident is phenomenal. The big third act stunt set pieces is a total banger. Like the first act and the third act are great, and the middle act is way too long. And but it's full of great people having a great time. It's like it's a fun time at the movies. And the other person I'd like to highlight is that, like, I can't wait for Winston Duke to be a household name. Yes. He's absolutely so much fun playing the stunt coordinator in this movie, and just, again, like, understanding the assignment in a way that I think honestly only really him and Gosling do, in terms of, like, what kind of movie they're in and what they need to do for the performance. And also, like, I would watch a movie with those two because they have great chemistry together in a way that him and Blunt don't, in my opinion, in this movie. But, like, it's fine. It's totally great. It's totally worth your money to rent. If it's still playing in a cinema, I would say that I don't regret seeing it in a cinema, and I think that if you watched it at home, you might actually lose out on something, because some of the stunt work is incredible, and I think it's definitely worth seeing. There's one fight scene that's great in the middle, I would say. I think it's in the middle. And there's one recurring joke in the middle where Ryan Gosling's character is high that was like a joke designed for me in the second act. In which I don't want to spoil it. I think you probably know what I'm talking about, but I absolutely do, but you mustn't. There's a thing that keeps happening and it's pretty much perfectly executed. So
Perfectly.
yeah, I mean, the short version of what I'm trying to say here is that like this movie didn't vibe. I didn't vibe with this movie in the way that I expected to or hoped to, but it's still a good movie, and you should still watch it. It's still a great time. And my wife has watched it. We saw it in cinemas. I purchased it for her the day it became available in digital, and she has watched it at least twice since. Like it is.
Yeah, I'm with
If
her.
you're gonna like, if it's the kind of movie you're gonna like, you are gonna like it, and you're gonna
Yeah.
like it hard. So you should definitely seek it out.
This film, it's a light film, knowingly light, and I'd say I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I vibe so hard with it. And like the Gosling Blunt chemistry was almost very old fashioned Hollywood kind of, like when you put Fred Astaire up against any beautiful woman, like you'd never believe that beautiful woman would fall in love with Fred Astaire, but they had this jokey sort of chemistry. It reminded me of that, and
I think that's a bit of a stretch because
well,
Fred Astaire has had genuine chemistry with a number of leading ladies, and I think that Ryan Gosling and Emily
yeah.
Blunt genuinely have chemistry with a number of people they're put opposite, and I just don't think it was. And I don't even think they don't have chemistry in this movie. I just don't think that the chemistry they have is appropriate for the story they're trying to tell about them. Like it's a
Hmm.
little bit too platonic. You know what I mean? Like it's a little bit like I don't at any point believe that they are
I think that might
not.
be a
Yeah. Anyway.
it's I kind of know what you're saying, because the way it's dealt with in the movie, that the passion part of the relationship we only see either mentioned or in very very brief flashbacks. So we only ever see their sort of acceptance stage of them splitting up and kind of vibing back together again. So it is a little passionless for sure.
I mean, except for
But
the
I
third
don't.
act where they are back
I
together. Like,
yeah. But even that, I mean, I don't think this is a movie that needs more than that, though. Like, this is a movie about a light two people joking around and with a lot of stunts, and if anything, like that second act that is far too long, and the story elements do drag together. It's because they stop trying to be a light, funny throwaway movie and try and do some actual dramatic story beats, and it just crunches to a halt. But the the fun parts of this movie are so much fun, it balances out for me. And there's a great karaoke scene that had me singing with my wife to our thoroughly embarrassed children. And the way music is done really really well. And yeah, there's some great visual gags as well. And I loved it. I just had a ball. I would watch the hell out of this movie over and over. It's
yeah,
great.
and
And the stunts are great.
yeah, I mean, I have. So it's funny you mentioned the karaoke scene because like the way they handled that is actually a bit of a nitpick for me. Like, I don't want to spoil. I'm not gonna say anything that's happening during the movie, but there's a whole sequence that happens whilst Emily Blunt is singing a specific song at a karaoke bar, and when it switches between where her singing and the other thing happening in the somewhere else, it switches back and forth between her and the original song, and I kind of wish that it didn't. And uh, I think it would have been more impactful if it didn't. And that's just one of like 1,000 tiny choices that left me cold about it. You know,
It didn't bother me.
it
Yeah,
just would have been more resonant to the scene and to what's happening in the other place if it was her singing the whole time. For me, and I don't know why they didn't. It's like it's not even an easy, not even a difficult choice. Like she's a good singer, she's a great singer even,
mm, mm.
and it didn't. It just baffles me why they didn't do it that way. Because I think it would have lent again like weight to um, what was happening in the. It's so hard to talk about without spoilers, but what was happening in the other place whilst she's singing would have had more weight. I feel.
Hmm.
So and it's one of those things where like I'm very hot and cold on David Leitch.
Mm.
I think he is occasionally great, and most of the time I think he's kind of what's the right way to say it? He like doesn't seem to have like a real distinct voice, and I think sometimes like if you want to talk about a showcase for stunt work, I know you're not too hot on it, but like Atomic Blonde, I think is a better showcase for stunt work, even though it's not like a knowing showcase. You know, like I think the stunt work is better. Um, uh, but then sometimes like with this, and I think to a lesser degree, and you're gonna object because I know you love this movie, but like I think that he's not the best comedic director, and I think he's improved since Bullet Train. Is what I'll say, because I really didn't vibe with Bullet Train at all. And but again, like, this movie has too many great people in it doing too many fun things for it to be bad, which just doesn't. It's just not a thing. And I'm glad that he seems to have found some people he likes to collaborate with on an ongoing basis. And I can't wait to see what he does next. This movie's fine. It's totally fine. You should definitely watch it. You might vibe. You'll probably vibe with it harder than I did. So do that.
It's a shame it bombed out in the cinema. I mentioned this a few days ago, but I think the trailers are completely to blame. I think the trailers were really bad for this movie and didn't really paint it in a good light at all. And it deserved to have a better cinema run. But at least now the advantage is you can watch it at home. So maybe this will get its legs on demand and on Blu-ray. I hope so. I like David, because I want David Leitch to keep making movies. He has a distinct problem with pacing it and getting his story together. Like, each of his films have been a little bit too long and a little bit. There's been drops in pace in each of them, but he's such a. It's almost so performative for an audience. I love Bullet Train, and I love, which Deadpool did he do? It's the second one.
The second one, yeah.
Yeah, I love Deadpool too.
I like Deadpool too, and it's like, I actually really like Deadpool too. Again, this is a director I'm very hot and cold on, and I haven't quite narrowed it down. But like, even the ones I don't really like, I think are generally fine. You know, like, it's not like I'm saying he's a bad director. I just think, well, I think Hobbs and Shaw is pretty bad. But,
oh God, did he do Hobbs and Shaw? That's terrible.
Yeah,
but
most of his films that are like, I was about to say original, but The Fall Guy is technically an update of an 80s TV show. But the films where he's clearly like not just cashing a paycheck, I think are at least fine. So.
It's kind of nice in this one. He clearly had all his mates involved, and
not just his mates involved. Like, all of the stunt equipment has him and Chad Stahelski's stunt company logo all over it. Like, it's 87 North is his production and stunt production company.
That's cool.
So it's it's basically an ad for his services as well.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
How many stars did you finish up with Fall Guy then?
3. It's 3-star. I'm assuming you have more than that. Probably at least
it's a 4. It's a 4 for me. But I watched it with a good crowd, my wife and my kid, and we all loved it. So yeah, it's it was really fun, and I really value that.
Yeah. Again, like, for what it's worth, my wife has watched this movie 3 times since we saw it in cinemas in opening weekend. Or I guess, no, we saw it the week after opening weekend. So,
see, she knows it. Can you please tell her to start a Letterboxd? I meant to mention this to you earlier this week. Even if she just does a star system.
I tell her
she's got such an interesting take on movies, and she's got such good specialist knowledge on the kind of movies I want to watch. Like, I
tell her to start a Letterboxd all the time, and I really wish. Even last night, she was like, we were talking about the other movie we're about to talk about. We were talking about what our favorite movies of the year so far was, and she's like, I'm having a hard time remembering it, what I've seen even, and I'm like, start a fucking Letterboxd. But she's not the type to do that kind of thing. Like, it would take a lot of. It took me a long time to get to a point where I was like actively logging all of the things that I watched. Took a lot of willpower, and I think that, like, that is just not something she has any interest in doing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because I think and also, like, it would betray how much she just rewatches stuff over and over. I think it'd be very interesting to see.
Yeah. The only way I remember is to do it immediately after a movie finishes. Otherwise, it's gone from my head.
Yeah, that reminds me. We watched a movie the other day that I don't think that I logged, so I should do that before I forget.
Yes, you should.
So yeah, it's the fall. Getting back on topic, The Fall Guy is a totally fine movie with a fun central performance, legitimately fun central performance. Right, Baby Goose can do no wrong, and a lot of the stunt work is great. And honestly, you should watch this movie, and definitely don't turn it off during the credits where they're like doing all the behind the scenes stuff, because the behind the scenes work on the stunts is incredible. and you should definitely watch all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Good. Yes, watch the film. Have a good time. Get some popcorn. Nice and light.
yeah. So shall we move
Which
on?
is, it's a little bit different from our second film. Why don't you tell us what happens in Challenges?
So
Good luck. I'm glad I'm not. I'm glad I'm not the one doing Challenges. Let me tell you.
So where to start with Challengers? So Challengers is stars Zendaya and Mike Faist and Josh O'Connor, and uh, Zendaya plays the wife and coach of Mike Faist's character. His name is Art, and her name is Tashi. And in the present, he is coming off of an injury. It's never really specified what that injury is, but he's coming off of an injury. He's a longtime tennis pro, and she is his coach, and they are married. And he's in this slump, and so she enrolls him. She puts him into a challenger, which is you have the ATP Tour, you have the Grand Slams, you have the ATP Tour, and then you have the challengers. So it's like the lowest level of pro tennis because he needs some easy wins to regain his confidence. And in the final of this challenger, across the court ends up being his former best friend and his wife's ex-boyfriend, played by Josh O'Connor, playing Patrick. And the rest of this film is basically the course of this 3-set tennis match, and after every meaningful point, a flashback to a prior part of their history together, the three of them, going as far back as when they all first meet at the Junior US Open 13 years prior. And then just chronicling like their relationships for the rest of the film. I don't want to say more than that. But what I will say is that this might be Luca Guadagnino's masterpiece. I loved this movie with my whole heart and being. Not just because everyone in it is spectacular, but also because, in a weird way, very specifically, tennis was the sport I grew up playing. And let me tell you that, like, not a lot of people will agree with me or know about this, but, like, watching great tennis is amazing. And there are a couple of moments of amazing tennis in this. But more importantly, everyone in it is spectacular. The story is incredibly well conceived. Zendaya has never been better. Mike Faist has now been in 2 movies that I have seen, and he has been legitimately incredible in both of them. Josh O'Connor has an innate talent for taking a basically unlikable character and making you love him, which is a feat he accomplished with Prince Charles of all fucking people. Like it's a whole thing.
What?
Oh, did you not watch The Crown? He played Prince Charles in The Crown and made me feel
What?
empathy for Prince Charles. Like, let me just let that land on you, a British person. In the 3rd and 4th seasons of The Crown, I felt empathy for Charles, and
I'm
that is
sorry.
entirely because Josh O'Connor played him
He's
and the way he played
British.
him. Yeah, he's very British.
Motherfucker!
Are you just upset at how good his accent is?
Oh. What?
I seem to have struck a nerve by revealing a fact about this actor. He is so good. And the film is really great at teasing out just the important details. There's a lot of like show not tell about not just like little things, like you're never really here. You don't know exactly what happened to Mike Faist's character Art. You know he's had some kind of injury. You don't know the nature of it, except for that it's related to his shoulder. It's never really spoken of except for one line. But then also like all of the physio he's doing and the ways in which he's struggling on the court. You never really know anything like that much about Josh O'Connor's background, except for like again a few lines and a few of the ways that he behaves that makes those lines really illuminate. And then you have Zendaya's character, who's basically a Williams sister, um, uh, but only by implication. Like, it's never really confirmed whether she's like rich or poor or just in the middle of that somewhere. You just sort of learn that like she is in a family environment and tennis was the thing, and she is great. Um, and then I can't tell you exactly why I love this movie, but the end of the movie is perfect. The tennis match at the end is amazing, and it's not the tennis; it's the relationship between the two men playing it. Um, there's an early line in the movie where Zendaya explains that great tennis is a relationship. It's two people in sync, perfectly understanding one another, um, and achieving something greater than just hitting a ball with a racket. And that is what happens at the end, and it is fucking perfect. I cannot tell you how much I was literally like buzzing, like physically buzzing at the end of watching this movie. Um, Feel free to interrupt me with any thoughts you're having because I could just keep rambling. I feel like I'm rambling, and I want to give you a chance to speak because I could just keep talking forever.
So I finished watching this movie. As it turns out, exact same moment you finished watching the movie.
Yeah, like 2 minutes later, it turns out.
And ever since, I've been thinking, how do I talk about this film? Because it feels like I benefited from really knowing nothing. And this is a film with a great trailer because it gives you the premise. But it, like, the depth of this film, I've never seen any of this director's other films as well. And so the style of acting that is almost like theatrically performative at times, and the aggressive camera work, like, this is a director who loves filmmaking and it doesn't do any like shot reverse shot. Just every shot is deliberate. Every shot is absolutely vital to the story, and the script is fucking just.
I actually was taking notes on
so good.
my favorite Zendaya lines in the movie. And like every single one of her lines is delivered with every single one of her lines is perfect, but the ones that are backed by some judgment or vitriol are so perfect. There's
And
one
yeah.
late in the movie where she's talking to Josh O'Connor's character, and they're talking about his prospects as continuing being a tennis player, and she says, "You're 31. You have a better shot with a gun in your mouth." It's, but it's so perfectly delivered. Like I can't believe that character continued to exist past that moment in the movie.
Oh my god! But this is a script that relies on the audience realizing what the subtext of lines is.
Yeah,
There's so much subtext where he's like, "You're here for something," and she says, "Why else would I be here?" And the audience is like, "Oh my fucking god! We know exactly why you're here." It's this is a film that demands attention and rewards it as well, and you have no idea how it could possibly end satisfactorily, and then it fucking does. And I have to say, this is one of the most electrifying use of soundtracks in a movie. When you realize what the soundtrack actually represents in the film, oh my fucking god, it is electric, and it is a great soundtrack as well. So you've got
it's the best score from Reznor and Ross in a hot minute. Like going back maybe all the way to like The Social Network or Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It is very much their best score in a long time.
And the way it's used with certain patches of dialogue and then not on others, it is fucking phenomenal. And I have to say, Zendaya is she is so fucking. This is a very horny movie, right? This is a very passionate movie, and each of these three characters is fucking like hot to trot. But Zendaya, they've all got their complications. That's the great thing about this character work as well. They're all kind of good and all kind of terrible for different reasons. And
I would flip that. They're all kind of terrible, but they're all kind of good for reasons.
Right. But it's not. They don't suddenly become bad. Like the seeds are always there, and Zendaya, her manipulation is just, and then she's just. I can't put sentences together. The way they all kind of try to manipulate each other whilst realizing what's happening during the manipulation, and also the the trio playing young versions of themselves in an utterly non-patronizing, non-performative, but realistic way. There's huge time jumps, and their physicality and their fucking line delivery is so accurately great. Instead of like, oh, I'm a kid now. This is 13 years ago. Man, I'm going to wear a cap sideways, as we've seen in so many like de-aging stuff. It is just spectacular. But the fourth member of this cast is the director. Like the shots in this film and the deliberate nature of slow motion. Like Zack Snyder needs to watch this movie to learn about how to use slow motion to enhance your film instead of drag it to a halt.
It's also like not just the slow motion, but like there are several scenes where it switches to this like first person view of the tennis ball, where the first person isn't the player, it's the ball, and you would think that kind of thing would be like discombobulating, but like it works
so clever,
so well. And like you can find there's a VFX reel of it out there, and it is so intricate and intricately put together with such care. It's a combination of um, tennis doubles and face replacement and crowd insertion and elaborate camera work and a recreation of that camera work in CG. Like, there's so much gone into these very short sequences. And there's such a high degree of care involved. Luca Guadagnino has made a number. I can't remember. He's made like 6 or 7 films off the top of my head, and I've seen I think 4 of them. And I think he's a great director. I think there's only one of those films that I don't adore, and I still like it. But I think this is so far and away my favorite movie of the year to date. I have a hard time imagining anything coming close to it. And I think this might be his masterpiece. I hope this is up for all the awards at the end of the year at every show. And I say that knowing there's lots of good stuff still coming. We're not even halfway through the year yet.
Yeah, it's a very satisfying watch as well. Like it demands a lot from you, but
it does demand your engagement in the best way possible. Like you said before, it demands your attention. It doesn't just demand your attention; it demands your engagement. You have to be in the room with it in a way that lots of other movies don't require you to be.
Yeah.
You have to be, especially the scenes when it's the 3 of them together, where there's this palpable sexual tension that demands you be close to them in a way that is that again most movies don't.
The trust these actors have in each other as well is phenomenal. The performances really, like, the police agree clearly.
Yeah, they always do. That's an ambulance, actually. Someone probably just watched the film and had a heart attack.
It's so fucking hot. And Zendaya is so hot in this film. It's ridiculous. But the fact that she's hot and sexual is not just because she's a hot woman. Like the fact that she uses it is a central part of the story. Like, everything's just so well entwined and put together and justified. Like, every part of this movie links to others. In fact, there's no way. Just there are some links in this film that get resolved later on that it's just one of those beautiful gasp out loud moments when the penny finally just drops. And man,
I'm gonna have to ask you which moment you're talking. There's a couple of those I'm curious which one you mean.
I can. Yeah.
Oh, tell me after.
Yeah. But yeah, I would be. I haven't seen Furiosa yet, and there's a couple of great films I'm looking forward to this year that are very much in my genre of films that I love. But I would be, as a pure, like, all-rounded technical performance masterpiece, film masterpiece, I'd be amazed if this wasn't my film of the year this year.
Mm-hmm. Getting some weird feedback from you, actually.
Me?
Yeah.
I haven't changed anything.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I feel like we should just stop the podcast. Like, we're not even at an hour yet. But like, I don't know what else.
Yeah,
I don't know what else to say
apart from watch this film, 5 stars. Like, go
Yeah.
watch this film, 5 stars, and don't learn anything more about it. And Zendaya is the real deal. Mike Faist is fucking phenomenal. And I didn't know who Josh O'Connor was. And the fact that he is English is utterly devastating to me on a deep level. Because he's phenomenal. Everyone's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's all true. So yeah, go watch the movie. Like, I don't know what else to say, man. Like, this is just go watch the movie. It's my favorite movie of the year. It's going to be one of the best movies of the year. I hope it's up for every award. My main curiosity at this point is that every year David Ehrlich, a critic who I like, produces a 15-minute video of the 25 best films of the year, and my only question is, like, how high up on his list is it going to be, and how much is it going to be featured in the opening montage? It's incredible. I co-founded, and you are in a critics group this year called Cascadia Critics Film and Television Critics Association, which we should definitely plug more often than we do. But I went into our group chat last night after I finished watching it as well, and informed the group that I was repurposing it from Critics Association to Zendaya, Mike Feist, Josh O'Connor Awards campaign headquarters. So, which everyone seemed to agree with, except for maybe one of us who I know didn't actually like this movie, which is I would love to dig into that with you, Thomas. If you're listening, I would love to dig into why you didn't.
Really? Tom didn't like it?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a podcast.
Yep. Anyway, so yeah, I think we should just cut it there. Go watch the movie. That's the whole podcast. Go watch Challengers. Fall Guy, sure, whatever. Go watch Challengers. It's also difficult having to talk about these two movies back to back because, like relative to one another, one of them is a towering work in the form, and the other one is a good movie. It's fine.
That's fine. I love them both for very different reasons, and they are very different films, both valid. But
yeah,
Challenges. I wish the fact that it's come to streaming so quickly. Does that mean it bombed out of the cinema? Is that how things work anymore?
I just think the way things work is different now. To be totally honest, like as a person who has watched a shit ton of movies every year forever, and I think it's interesting to think that we're definitely at a point in time where it takes an event to get people into a cinema seat, which is why things like Barbenheimer dominated last year, right? And I don't think either movies that we've talked about this week were events in the way they were required to be to put butts in seats these days.
Yeah, for sure.
That doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that the landscape of cinema has shifted in a way, in that way, and I don't. I mean, I have mixed feelings about it, but also it's just the way things are. Like, I hope that, for example, I'm very much looking forward to Twisters. I very much hope that turns out to be an event and that has a good long box office run. I don't really expect anything to at this point, though, anymore. And I think I have no inside baseball on this, but I imagine that the success of the Barbenheimer event last year is something that marketing companies are going to be trying to chase for years. And as a result, anything for the next little while, I'd be shocked if anything that didn't like immediately land, like a Supernova is probably going to get shunted to cinemas as they try to recreate it with the next thing they're putting into cinemas.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think that's a comment on the quality of films being made in 2024. I think it's a comment on the way the film business works in 2024. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope
that
it
in
made
short,
enough money for
to sum up everything we've talked about. Go watch Challengers. Jesus Christ! I don't know how else I could say it. Just that's the one thing I want you to take away from this. Go watch Challengers. It's so fucking good.
Yeah. Do that. Watch it at home. There you go. You don't
watch it wherever you can see it. Honestly, I'm curious if it's still playing. I would love to go see this movie in a cinema. I think the tenants in particular would be incredible. But I can't wait to watch this movie 1,000 times. Which I basically plan. It's not that often I immediately want to rewatch a film, but I finished watching this film last night, and I was like, should I go to bed or should I just rewatch this movie?
Rewatch Challenges.
So yeah, do with that what you will, but go watch the movie. And then tell us how you feel. We have socials. We have comments. Tell us what you thought of both movies in both places.
Please do.
You can find us on most socials at Awesome Friday CA. You can find me at SmatthewAF in most places. But the easiest way to find us, because there's such a fragmented market of these things now, would be to check out our homepages. The show is obviously, Simon's is temporarypen.com. Mine is stretched.ca. The show is awesomefriday.ca. And also check the show's homepage. The link for this episode will be in the show notes. There are links powered by Just Watch that will tell you wherever you can watch the film online, streaming, or buy or rent, wherever you happen to be, that update as availability changes. So if you don't see a film there, just come back and check again. And if you use those links, it'll help us keep the lights on around here. And that's true of every film we've covered as well. They all have those links. So if you want to watch a film, search it up on Awesome Friday and then click the link. That would be a huge help. We do also have a Patreon in which supporters get a bonus episode every week we record. This week we talked about what did we talk about? We talked about Sam Raimi a lot. We talked about politics a little, which was weird. And we talked about concert films as well. And I thought it was a good conversation.
Yes.
Leading into this one. Last but not least, we are here in Vancouver on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish nations. And once again, thank you so much for listening and for joining us on this Awesome Friday.
Yay. Bye.